Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Thank you all for coming. It's really great to see everybody here today. I do have to apologize that it's a little bit hot. We don't have any air conditioning today, so just pretend you're at one of those JW conventions, you know, where there's no air conditioning and it's super hot, and then you faint twice. Yes, I fainted at 2 different occasions at 2 different conventions. It was super hot, not very pleasant. Anyways, I see I have a question from somebody in the audience here, and I think I recognize this person. Go ahead, please.
Why do you make these videos about JWs?
Well, thank you very much for your question. I know who you are now. I just realized you're Elder Brown from the Bunker videos. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's great to have you here with us. And it's a good question. It's a question actually I have asked myself from time to time. You know, I mean, for the most part, I get a lot of positive comments from people when I make these videos, but I also get a lot of negative comments as well. I shouldn't say a lot, but some negative comments as well. And I realize that whenever you take a stand for or against something, you're going to have people who do not agree with you. And some of those people are very vocal. They may say things like, oh, look, it's Jezebel. or apparently I resemble the harlot who rides the wild beast in the Bible book of Revelation. I've had people tell me, you know, why don't I just, you know, get on with my life? I must have some chip on my shoulder or something, or an axe to grind. One person said that I'm like a girl stalking her ex-boyfriend the way I am with the JW organization. Why don't I just move on, leave it alone? You know, there's all kinds of comments like that. And I can assure you none of these things are true. You know, I do have a life. And I'm not Jezebel. Don't have the red hair. If I do resemble the harlot in the Bible book of Revelation, it's purely a coincidence. But I have yet to ride any beasts or wild beasts of any kind. I'm not a bitter person, and I hope that that could just shine through in the videos that I make, that you already come to that conclusion yourself by seeing the many videos I've done. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a bitter person. And Satan doesn't live here, you know, contrary to what some people have thought. At least he's not paying rent, if he is. I'm joking. He doesn't live here, okay? I'm assuming that you're watching this video because you are either a Jehovah's Witness yourself, or you were a JW, or you have friends or family or a loved one who also is one. Perhaps you're just curious about the JWs. Maybe they just called on your door and you just want to Google them and see, you know, what are people saying about them. Or maybe it's none of those things and you're just simply trapped under a heavy object and you're stuck and you can't get out and you can't stop this video. I don't know what your reasons are exactly for watching this, but I can assume it's one of those things that I just mentioned. But if you know anything about the JW organization, you are aware that they do not tolerate any dissension of any kind. They do not, they strongly discourage anybody from having any doubts. You know, you're made to feel that you're weak in the faith and you need to, you know, keep it to yourself. As soon as you start expressing these doubts to anybody within the congregation, that's trouble for you. They're going to label you as a troublemaker. You're going to have an elder call on you, and you may find yourself disfellowshipped simply just because you asked the wrong questions. And this is after you're baptized, of course. If you're somebody who's just newly into the organization, you can ask questions. The problem is once you're baptized, that's when the trouble can start for you. And you're going to find yourself given the old boot out of the organization. The thing is, why these kinds of comments don't bother me, these negative comments don't bother me, is because I said them myself when I was a JW. So I totally get it, what they're saying and what they're thinking. I mean, okay, so I never called anyone a harlot or Jezebel. That's kind of pushing the envelope a bit, but whatever. But I did say things like, you know, in fact, I said this exact same thing to a girl I was studying with when I was a witness. Why do they have to say negative comments? People who leave the organization, why do they say negative comments about the witnesses? Why can't they just move on with their lives? I said that exact thing. And so I totally understand where they're coming from. But funny enough, when I was a witness and I was calling on people's doors, people would say to me, get a life. And now that I'm no longer JW, I also have people telling me to get a life. And these are coming from JWs. So, I mean, it all basically boils down to the fact that if people don't like what you're saying, they're going to tell you to get a life, you know. But as I said, I'm well aware of the fact that JWs warn their members heavily about videos like mine and about anybody who says anything negative about them. Of course, they can say the most vile, negative things about every other religion, but the second you say anything negative about their religion, you're labeled an apostate. Take a look.
So don't be bogged down with these apostates, and be careful on the internet. We were talking about that this weekend with friends. Oh, my word, how many times did I tell you, be careful? You know, going here, going there, they'll suck you in. See, with some of this stuff, it can seem so innocent. We're just warning you that all we can do is admonish. Stick with what we have authorized. You'll be safe.
To go back to the stalking comparison, it's really nothing like that at all. People stalk others because they either want that person back in their life, so this is their way of trying to get the person back, and surely that's not the case with me. I do not want to go back to JW.org now that I know the true nature of the organization. Or they are doing this because they are trying to make that person's life miserable, like they have evil intent. They're just trying to, you know, get back at the person and be mean to them and make their life miserable. And, you know, you don't know me, but I can assure you that I am not doing this out of evil intent. You see, I see the organization as being abusive. So if you go back to the scenario of a boyfriend and girlfriend, to me, they are like an abusive boyfriend who has victimized the girlfriend. He's done all kinds of horrible things to her. He's never had to pay for the bad things that he's done. He's never gone to jail. No one knows about this. He did it all in private. And then he tries to turn it around and make her, the victim, look like the bad guy in the whole thing. Now, she can, once she's free of this guy, she can say, okay, I'm free of this lunatic. I can just live my life now. You know, yes, he damaged me. Yes, he did horrible things. Yes, he made me look out to be horrible, and he alienated my family from me and all my friends, and I've had to restart my life. But at least I'm free of this lunatic, and now I can get on with my life. You know, she could do that, and that would be perfectly great if she did that, okay, that she's now moving on with her life. Or she could take the path of trying to warn others, because she doesn't want them to be victimized the same way she was. She sees this guy running around scot-free without a care in the world, victimizing more people, and she doesn't want that to happen to them. You see, and that's the way I view the organization. Yes, I did suffer as a result of this organization, and I don't want others to suffer the same way I did. You know, most of the JW kids that I grew up with are now no longer JWs. They've moved on with their lives, and they don't want anything to do with activism. They don't want to be part of any Facebook group. You know, if you ever do talk to them about it, they're like, oh yeah, dark time in my life when I was a JW, and so happy to be free of it, and they've moved on. And I think that's great. I'm not knocking that at all. I think that's fantastic. If you've moved on and you're happy, great. You know, but for me, I guess, I mean, I've read so many, I would say literally hundreds of stories of people who have either been close to suicide. I personally know of 6 that did commit suicide as a result of growing up as a JW. I hear the horror stories, and it just breaks my heart. And to know that the organization victimizes these ones and says that they're the bad guy, you know, it just blows me away. And I just feel awful of the losses that people have had to go through. I mean, I thought my story was bad, but it's nothing compared to the thousands of other people who have left this organization, who are just left there licking their wounds. Yes, they can get on with their lives. Yes, they can move on. But is this right? Shouldn't someone stand up and say, this is wrong what this organization is doing? I mean, this is exactly what Jesus did when he stood up to the false organizations in his day. He saw that they were like sheep without a shepherd. He saw that they were just left, you know, with nothing. And the religious organizations just walked away and moved on to the next victim. And I personally can't live with that. I don't knock anyone else for being able to move on with their life. I think that's great, because we all just do what we can, you know. But for me, I have to speak out. And the fact that they want me to be quiet, The fact that they'll go to such great lengths to silence people like me by calling us names and by trying to make us look bad and bitter and negative and evil and all the things that JW.org says about people like me who leave. And, you know, Mormons do the same to ex-Mormons. Scientologists do the same to ex-Scientologists. Just open your eyes and realize that all of these cults, this is what they do. When you speak out against them, they try to silence you. Well, I don't silence easily. I mean, you know, when I was at JW, I was all in. I was a very active witness. You know, I was in all kinds of convention parts. I was pioneering, and I spoke out at every opportunity for the truth. Well, keep in mind, I've been trained by them to speak out for what is right. It just so happens now that what I know is right is speaking out against them. I'm using all the strategies they use to teach me these things, but now I'm using it against them. And that's the irony, I guess, of the whole thing. But, you know, I think it's only fair now that I spend a little bit of time trying to undo some of the bad things that I see the organization doing. I know that JWs do have doubts, even though they're taught to suppress any doubts. I mean, they're not robots, even though they are beaten down and made to, you know, believe every word that the governing body tells them to believe. I recognize that, you know, they do have a mind of their own somewhere deep down there. And I make these videos because I want JWs to realize that you're not crazy in having these doubts. JW.org is crazy, but you're not. You're not crazy. And I want people to realize that when they have these doubts, it's normal. It's not, what's not normal is to just go along with whatever the organization says. The book is white. Oh, it's white. No, it's black. Oh, it's black. Yes, I believe that now. Oh, it's actually green. Okay, yeah, it's green. That's kind of what the organization does. Accept blood. Don't accept blood. Accept blood fractions. What's next? You know, you're supposed to believe everything that they tell you when they tell you to believe it. That's not normal, because you do have a mind of your own. Use it. Use it to realize what's going on. You know, and I also make these videos because I want to see that, contrary to what the organization says, people like me who leave are not bitter. We're not bitter people. I'm not Jezebel. I'm not gnashing my teeth in some kind of angry rage. You know, I'm not looking for followers. I'm not looking to mislead anybody. I just present evidence for people. Almost always the evidence I present is from their own publications. In this particular video, I'm trying to make it a little bit shorter than my average video. We'll see how it comes out. But I guess you have to ask yourself the question, who has more to gain? An organization that has profited off of its members to the tune of billions of dollars? Or someone like me who actually has a lot to lose by making videos like this? A lot to lose in terms of the negativity that comes into my life from people who don't like what I'm saying, family members and friends that may see it. You know, I have a lot more to lose. The organization, they don't want me talking. Of course not. I also would like you to ask yourself, you know, if you had a loved one who became a Scientologist, knowing what you know about this organization, what would you say to try to help them? How would you try to wake them up? You can see the difficulty that people like me who make these videos face. We know that the indoctrination and the mind control runs very deep. We know that people are automatically programmed to not listen to people like me. And we saw what Anthony Morris said about people like me. And it's very difficult. These cults have been manipulative and abusive to their members, and the people don't see it. The rest of the world sees it. We all see it. We can see quite clearly that Scientology is a cult. But you know who doesn't see it? Scientologists. And Jehovah's Witnesses are exactly the same that way. They think that everything negative said about them is coming from Satan. Scientologists are told the same thing, so are Mormons, so are the Brethren, so are the Seventh-day Adventists. They're all told the same thing. Well, guess what? It's not true. They are cults. And this is why they say those kinds of lies, because people indoctrinated don't see it. So I do my best to try to find ways to appeal to people, to reach their hearts, to reach their minds, to make them think, open up their thinking abilities. You know, the doubts that you have, it's normal to have doubts like that. Don't suppress them. You need to find out the truth for you. What is the truth? What makes sense? So I know that Brother Brown wants to get back to his bunker, but he'd asked why I make these videos. And as I've discussed, they're for JWs, they're for ex-JWs, they're for those who are curious about the organization, and they're also therapeutic for me, having been there myself. For JWs, what I'm hoping is that they will research their organization for themselves and see for themselves whether or not the organization is actually teaching the truth. For ex-JWs, it's difficult to emerge from a cult. It really is. There's so many losses that the cult takes away from you that it's important for people who come out of it to realize that there are people like me here, who want to see you succeed, who want to give you information and encouragement to go on with your life, and that you can be happy again despite all the things that have been taken away from you by the organization. So it's important for them to realize that they're not alone. For those who are curious about the organization, who happen to see videos like mine, I want them to realize that it's not a benign organization, that it's actually an abusive cult that has ruined thousands, dare I say millions of lives by their harmful practices, their wrong policies, unscriptural policies, and the shunning and the bad lies that they've taught throughout the years. And for those of you trapped under a heavy object, well, I hope you learned something here too. Oh, goodness. I think Brother Brown just fainted, possibly due to the heat. Anyways, we'll be getting some help for him too. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, then like it, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.